now learning that FEMA will airlift residents off the island of Puerto Rico. They're being taken to New York and Florida. This comes nearly 50 days after Hurricane Maria slammed the island. David Begnaud joins us now from San Juan, Puerto Rico. David, what can you tell us?
Rena, this has never been done before. FEMA is calling it an air breach. Essentially what they're doing is evacuating Puerto Ricans who have nothing left to go home to and are currently staying in shelters. They're evacuating them to the mainland where there are more hotels to house them. This is all part of the TSA program, Transitional Shelter Assistance, where you move into a hotel and FEMA pays for the hotel room. There aren't enough hotels on the island of Puerto Rico, so that's why FEMA, for the first time ever, is going to airlift people to either Florida or New York. Right now the government and FEMA are dealing with the governors in both of those states. You already have roughly 100,000 people that have gone to Florida alone. Now, as for how many people are going to take advantage of this program, number one, it's optional. You're not being forced to go. Number two, it could end up being 700, 800, it could end up being 10,000. What FEMA's doing right now is they're going to hotels around the island, asking people, would you like to take part in this program? And if so, working out the final details as to how do you keep families together? How do you get them to those states? And then once you get them there and they land at the airport, you have to have services to take them to the hotel, from the hotel, those kinds of things. So FEMA's actually finalizing the details right now. We first got a tip on this about 48 hours ago, and only late this afternoon FEMA confirmed, yes, it is true. We are working on doing that right now.
And David, are residents open to this idea? Is this something they've been pushing for to evacuate to New York?
Well, it's interesting you asked that question, Rena. Puerto Ricans are proud of living here, and so there are people we've met who do not want to leave the island. But there are so many people who are still in shelters right now who literally have nothing to go home to. Their home is gone. It's just a slab in many cases. And so the thought is there's a better place than just the shelter where they're staying. It's better to get them to the mainland. So again, people are not being forced to leave. They're being asked if they want to, but it is a monumental task, according to all the folks I've spoken to at FEMA, because they don't want to separate families. So right now, manifests are being drawn up. Hotels are being selected in key cities. And also remember, a lot of these people are people who really can't afford to leave the island, Rena, and so there's going to have to be, on the back end, a plan to bring them back to the island. And then how do you help them rebuild their home? FEMA, on top of never doing this before, Rena, they've never also been feeding people and providing water 3 weeks after a storm. It's now almost 50 days after Maria, and they are still serving 1 million meals a day and giving out more than 1 million liters of water a day.
You talk about the food situation, David. What about electricity? How's that? Is there any improvements?
I tell you what, that is a complicated question. Here's why. You have the government saying roughly 40% distribution is happening on the island right now, and the governor has a goal of 50%. But I have to tell you, most everyone on this island has said to me, where there is generation coming from the power plants, they're being funneled to key areas like hospitals and other entities that are sort of first responders, if you will. So a lot of people say, hey, if I live right near a hospital, I have power, but if you don't live near hospitals, you don't have it. And we've not been able to get a solid number as to how many Puerto Ricans on this island actually have electricity. There's a status.pr website, and they post the power generation. But for whatever reason, PREPA, the electrical entity here, does not seem to be able to tell us, and we've been asking for weeks, exactly how many people are consuming power. Nobody can answer that question. But when you go around the island at night, it's not hard to see the darkness and understand, regardless of what the numbers say, the majority of people on this island are still living in the dark. Rena, there are kids that went to school today at schools where there is no power. In fact, almost all of the schools that are open on the island, the majority of them do not have power. That's why the school day has been shortened. It goes from 7:30 to 12:30, and schools do at least have water. That's the one thing you have to have in order to open. But the power situation here remains one of the most critical things that people, even business owners, so desperately need in order to reopen, start making money, and start serving food.
David Begnaud on the ground in Puerto Rico following the latest developments. David, thank you for this.